Did you hear about our new sponsor, Learn It? One of the best ways to support your team is by investing in their growth through practical learning experiences. And that's exactly what Learn It delivers. Their short, live workshops focus on the essential human skills we all need, like empowering others, managing change, and team collaboration. As a Speak with People listener, you get a free 45-day trial for up to 20 people. Start today by heading to learnit.com/speakwithpeople or click the link in the show notes and start your journey to investing in providing great growth for your team. Welcome to the Speak with People podcast, where we believe that healthy communication is the key to unlocking your leadership potential. We are the go-to resource for leaders looking to greatly improve their communication skills, whether it's one-on-one interactions, team settings, public speaking, or digital communication. By improving these skills, leaders can create stronger connections and drive positive change within their organizations. Each and every episode, we sit down with experts from various fields from around the world, just like you're grabbing a coffee with them, to dive into real, practical conversations. Our goal is to help you transform your communication skills so you can lead more effectively, build stronger relationships, and make a lasting impact. So go grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's learn together. Well, how do you ask the kind of questions that help, that make your clients lean in, trust you, and ultimately choose to do business with you? How can a simple shift in how you ask questions uncover deeper client needs, create stronger relationships, lead to more referrals? Wow, this is a lot, and that's what we're going to dive into today on the Speak with People podcast. So if you've ever felt like your client communication stall out, you struggle to move beyond surface level dialogue, today's episode is for you. I'm so excited to welcome Dan Cianci back to the Speak with People podcast. This is his second time. You are the only other person who's ever done multiple episodes. So we need to get you some type of award. But Dan has spent years helping professionals, from financial advisors to sales leaders, and he helps them master the skill of asking the right questions at the right time. So honored to have you on the podcast. Dan, thank you for being here.
Jason, I'm so excited to be here. This is awesome. Thank you for having me back.
Well, I know probably our listeners remember your episode. I can't remember what the episode number was. 117. This will be episode 224. So maybe about every 100 we'll have you back.
All right, sounds
This
good,
would be
man.
fantastic. But for those who don't remember, why don't you just give us a little snippet of your story? Who you are, what you do, what's kind of got you to this place?
Awesome. Well, so I'm in sales, and that word sales is always like, what does that actually mean? But for me, it's really about helping people get better at communicating and helping people ask, you said, the right questions.
Yep.
to connect with people. So I work for a large insurance company. I'm a regional vice president. I cover a pretty large footprint from Gulfport, Mississippi to Sarasota, Florida, all along the Gulf Coast, working with individuals inside financial centers. So one of the things that I like to do, and one of the things that we've been talking a lot about, is a venture that I'm creating. It's an outside business activity. It's called Discourse, and it's going to be a place where people can go to get more information, to ask better questions, and in order to know their clients better. Because we believe if you can connect with the client quicker and faster and build that trust, you can have better outcomes, and you can make yourself more referable as a financial professional. And it's just the idea of being able to build synergy as a team inside a financial center really helps all stakeholders involved.
Oh, I love that. And my mind's spinning because it works, obviously way outside of just financial professionals. I mean, anybody in client focused, hospitality, you're working one-on-one with people, especially over the long haul. Maybe not so much, the, hey, welcome to McDonald's. Of course that would help as well. But I'm building a relationship with them. I'm moving things forward. I'm kind of getting there. And so, we got to get to that place. I guess what's interesting to me about the way that you're going about this is, from what I've read, seen, experienced from some sales professionals, they kind of view, sorry for throwing people under the bus, but they kind of view, people as just like another notch or another number. They said no, let's move on. They said no, let's move on.
Volume, right?
Yes, volume.
Volume.
You're going at it from like, hey, let's figure out how we can build a relationship and ultimately serve the people. Why do you think sometimes the opposite side comes across then as kind of salesy, cheesy, and people are just kind of treated as a spoke on the wheel.
I think it's simple. You don't treat people like people, right? I mean, people just there's no human connection. And I think today, especially as we move more towards a digital culture, right? People we kind of come full circle, right? People are yearning for that connection with somebody as an individual. So I think that's a big part of it. Is when we look at you as a number and just a volume and how many more people can get in there, I think you leave a lot on the table as a sales individual for someone who's looking to build relationships and ultimately drive revenue for their firm.
Wow. Yeah. One of the things that struck me, and so, our Speaks People listening community may remember this from Dan's story. And I've told the story a million times, and it will probably be in our book. Dan and I are going to write a book on client communication. But the how this all happened, you had heard me speak once at a church or a couple times, and that when I started to speak with people, you called, and I thought, okay, this is an executive leader and you probably want help with public speaking skills or something like that. But you came to me with kind of this crazy idea because you're inside the financial centers, you're helping leaders, and you're from what I've experienced over the last couple of years, a crazy visionary kind of looking forward. And so you saw a struggle with how financial professionals communicate with each other across generations.
Correct.
And period. I mean, and so what were the flags going off for you as you were kind of coming to this place where you're going, okay, people aren't talking, people aren't even asked, we don't even get to the place where they're asking good questions. Kind of what led to that for you?
No, it's crazy you say that because there's a specific moment that I can go back to. So me and my wife, just as a regular couple, went into a bank for our own personal transaction. Now, mind you, I go into financial centers all day, every day
Right.
for a profession, right? So to help train people to have these kind of questions. And I was observing the interaction of the branch employees there. And I'm thinking to myself, I am the target audience for this branch,
Yeah.
and no one's paying attention, no one's giving me the personal attention, no one's asking the questions. So I started thinking about it, like, look, this is really where's the breakdown? And when you think about when you put it in perspective, I mean, you think about the different generations, and we talk about this a lot.
Right.
And it's you got four distinct generations in the workplace that see the world completely differently.
Mm.
And I think it just comes down from a cultural perspective on how each generation was raised and the experiences they had over their lifetime, where it just doesn't mix,
Right.
right? So that's kind of where it all kind of began. Is I started noticing that once I recognized that, I started looking at it at other branches. And then I started realizing that most of the managers, most of the financial professionals, the bankers tend to be more of a seasoned Generation X, right?
Right.
And they're training Gen Y and Gen Z
Yep.
to sell to the key demographic of baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it kind of hit. And that's where I was like, you know what? I think Jason would be a perfect person to partner with so we can build out a training program to address those specific issues,
Yeah.
and then bridge that gap. And since we've started this, I mean, it's almost 2 years now. We've been working on this initiative. It's hard to believe, right? But it's just getting bigger and bigger, and there's such a need for it. And I think we were kind of ahead of the game in the sense that we brought them a problem that they were experiencing in the branches without them actually knowing they had it.
Right.
And now we've seen it kind of come together where we're getting much more exposure. They're bringing us in for more larger types of events. But at the end of the day, we're on the ground level, just kind of really helping individuals communicate better and ask
Right.
those better questions to connect with people.
What's interesting is one of the first calls we did where we start casting vision for this. And the leader on the Zoom call or team call, I can't remember, we could hear just them like trying to process what is Dan and Jason talking about? Like we do, like they do the technical training. Their people knew they have the wealth expertise. They knew how to open up how to walk their client through the account setup. They knew that stuff. But what you brought to them with the visionary stuff was that's all great and handy. But people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so how do we help those professionals uh, get to the place where people lean in and trust them and know, like, and trust them on that much deeper of a level. And so what I've noticed about you as well in your leadership over the last couple of years is I mean, you question stuff a lot. I'll bring stuff to you and your first thought is like, you'll bring me another question to it. And sometimes it frustrates the heck out of me because I'm like, no, just give me an answer. But you're trying to get to the answer by asking those questions. And I think that's exactly what happens sometimes in client relationships. Financial advisor sits down with somebody, they jump to all the jargon, they jump to the wealth expertise, which they need to know, all of that stuff, but they miss the opportunity that those questions are unlocking pieces of the story. And so how for you, did it just come naturally? Was it modeled from a parent? Did you learn it in school? Did you just over, I mean, decades? Not, I mean, you, I'm not saying you're old or anything, but the decades, how did that just become a natural, part of your leadership function?
That is a great question, and I'll say this. I think I think it grew naturally. To be honest with you, over time
Yeah.
in the industry, by listening to different people, by being a student of the game, right? So I'm constantly looking at places where I can improve myself, right? So once you start improving yourself first, and you have success, and you're able to share your success with others.
Yep.
But I think it really has to do with just I'm a big believer in lifting people up, right? And I think when you start with the idea that you want to be a service leader, you want to lead by providing service and helping others, I just feel like it kind of comes naturally because you want to be naturally curious about people, right?
Yes.
And if you're curious about someone and you just want to ask questions, they're going to feel that connection. Now the trick is you can't really fake authenticity, right? You cannot fake
Wow.
that.
That's good.
You can't fake that curiosity. So I think you really have to retrain yourself. And I talk about this in the last podcast is how I had to retrain my brain
Yeah.
probably about 10, 12 years ago, to kind of think more positive and just kind of try to connect with people, quicker and faster. And I think there's just real tangible things you can do, to build those relationships. Because at the end of the day, you're right. Clients want to buy things, from people they like and they can trust.
Yeah. Well, those questions are helpful. I remember you and we had a conversation, it's probably a year ago, and you were kind of walking me through some of your kind of routine, some of how you go about, introducing yourself to new folks when you're walking into a place and you're, growing your business and all that kind of stuff. And for me, it kind of took me back a little bit because I was expecting you to come in and be like, well, my company provides boom, boom, boom. But you started with some of that authenticity that you just asked them you, about them.
Their children, and
Yes.
there's little things you can pick up in an office, right? Of course, if you want to really go above and beyond, you got to do a little research, right? So you got to go into a meeting, kind of get as much intel you can have on an individual, based on their public profiles.
Yeah.
That kind of gives you a kind of start. But usually you go into an office and this is kind of catch 22 because sometimes you go into an office and they're just sitting there. It's not their main branch or their main financial center, and they might be sitting in a an empty office.
Yeah.
Right. So then you're kind of walking in with a blank slate versus going to an office, someone's there all the time. You can kind of see their life all around them, and you can kind of get curious based on what you see, whether it's pictures, photographs, trinkets.
Yep. So that preparation matters.
I think it matters. Yeah, absolutely.
Don't just hope for better client conversations. Equip yourself for them. The Speak with Your Client series is live from April 14th to May 30th, packed with powerful tools to help you build trust and close more deals without being salesy. Catch expert-led podcasts, weekly blogs, live webinars on Mondays, and grab your free copy of the High Trust Sales Playbook. Make sure you're following Speak with People on all the socials. Join the speakers group on Facebook or the Speak with Your Client LinkedIn group just for the series. Don't miss a moment. Everything's waiting for you at speakwithpeople.com/speakwithyourclient. Your next client is counting on it. Now, maybe you don't want to go like CIA level and you sit down and be like, hey, I noticed in 77.
77. Yeah, no, I don't think that'll work. But usually, like you're gonna take a look on someone. You're gonna Google somebody. Just like I would imagine when I go to meet with someone for the first time,
Absolutely.
they're gonna do a quick Google search or a LinkedIn
Let's go
search
to his LinkedIn page.
just to see. And that's why I think brand is everything, and that's
Yeah.
why I spend so much time on the brand because I think it's all part of the package.
Yeah. So what do you do then? Because they're giving you wealth. So they answer your questions. You're asking them about their life and their kids and you get them talking. How do you remember that stuff?
So you take notes. Yeah, so I'm big into taking notes. I know electronically a lot of my counterparts will bring in their iPad and I used to do that, but then I realized that like the something about writing in front of them, it's an emotional connection that you care. So I do spend a lot of time, like I'll make an effort, and even if it's nothing like, I'll say something like, oh yeah, I'll get that to you. I'll make a note in front of them, or I'll say, oh, let me jot that down so I remember to get that to you this afternoon. So, and I actually try to find a way to write something down during a meeting.
It it's so powerful. I mean, that's why. I mean, I've read the research. You're so right on. Like when I try to take notes during these interviews because, and I'll tell people before the interview, hey, I'm not paying attention, but I am taking notes because yeah, I want to remember. I mean, that quote you said earlier, you can't fake authenticity. That's gold. I got to recall that, and it does lodge something in their brain. When they're like, okay, this is this is powerful. So let's
And
go. Yeah.
and you remember to actually send it,
Right.
which is probably 99% of it, right?
Yeah, I was on a sales call yesterday, and gentleman, getting all professional here. The gentleman, the guy asked me, "Hey, could you, yeah, send me that? I'd love to see it. It's some content that I developed or whatever." And I sent it to him by the end of the day, and even in his email, it triggered to him like, "Oh wow, thank you for." But we either don't write it down so we forget, or 3 days later we're like, "I never sent it." And what I'm finding in sales, in client relationships, client communication, speed is key. And so if I follow up quickly, I don't want to do a shoddy job following up, but if I get them what they need and I over deliver a little bit, that's just huge. So how do you in that process, you remember, and then how do do you do anything to stand out, over deliver, just kind of help wow them a little bit?
So number one, I have three principles,
Oh, all right.
and this is something that I started back in November, and something that's really taken my footprint to the next level over the last 6 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. One, it's going to be intentional now, not later, and sell the vision. So there are three things that I'm working into every conversation, and not just with people that I'm directly trying to position to, but people like marketing support, operations
Yeah.
support, management team. Like that's my three principles. So obviously, what I'm going to do is going to be intentional. So after I have that meeting, it's intentional. What do I want to get out of the meeting? What's going to be the follow up? And we have all these processes in place. Me and my internal partner.
Yep.
So it just triggers.
Yeah.
It triggers a process that occurs. Now, not later means if you have the opportunity to do something now, do it now. Don't put it off. So that means
That's good.
after a meeting, right? If I'm gonna send them a postcard with a thank you, right, or something about that meeting, I have the postcards in my car. I something else I just started doing, right? And they're like old postcards of Tampa or the local area.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, stamp in the mail. Now, not later. Like, don't put things off. I think that's important. You talk about speed in today's economy, in today's world, today's culture. Speed is everything. And then last, sell the vision. I find that once you tell people what you're trying to accomplish, and they're a part of that vision, they want to be a part of it. They want to see you succeed, and they want to succeed themselves. It just builds confidence in you as a leader and as a person. Because ultimately, I'm going into these financial centers really, you know, I'm trying to help the people around them.
Right.
If I can make their team better, they're going to get better. If they get better, they're going to lean on us to kind of drive their sales.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, go back to two for a second because there's so many. Well, let's just go. Let's just revisit all of them. Let's go back to one then. I love your first one, be intentional, and with your team, you have processes in place. Because if you don't have the processes, forget about it. It's like, okay, what do we do now? We okay, we don't. all right, we forgot about, things slip through the cracks so easily. And so processes take time. Sometimes they're painstaking, but you got to do them, because then once they're, things just start, working. So an hour later, I love the fact that you're sending handwritten postcards. One of the things when I've been out on the road speaking at events, I'll hear from people is, yeah, everything's automated. So they'll, the company will send a birthday card. The company will send, and it's like, okay, I mean, getting a birthday card that's printed happy birthday. Okay, it's nice. But when someone, maybe it's just because I'm a Gen Xer, but when someone goes the extra mile and writes, "Loved meeting with you today. Still can't believe you're a Yankees fan," or whatever inside joke you had, and then sends it. I was at an event in Pittsburgh in January, had follow up stuff, but my last part of the follow up is 2 weeks after I send a handwritten card. And I go back and forth with how quick the handwritten card should be there. But I sent the handwritten card. He got it at the end of last week. This week I got an email. Thanks for the card. It reminded me to ask you about June 10th.
Yeah, it's that personal touch is really important, and this is something I came to a decision on, a couple of weeks back. I was reading a book. I was thinking about how to improve. How I wanted to elevate my experience with the individual that I'm meeting with, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Let's go find some old postcards for the local areas, and then I can just literally just say thank you for the meeting. Looking forward to working with you, whatever it may be, the joke, and then just drop it in the
Such a great
mailbox while
idea.
I'm on the road.
And it holds into the giftology idea of making it kind of special. I shared on Facebook the other day a podcast guest coming on.
Love
Yeah,
it. Yeah, I
sent me
saw
those
him.
socks with
That's
my face
great.
all over them. I'm like, okay, I may never wear the socks, but
I
opening
might though. No, just kidding.
that's actually your gift for being on the podcast. But actually opening that up, I was like, my wife was like, "Who is that from?" I'm like, "I have no idea." And open it up, and it was a note. I can't wait to be on the podcast. With the gift. I'm like
How'd
that.
that make you feel?
Oh, it was everything. It was the warm and fuzzies. It was like, boy, I can't wait for that episode now. I mean, it was just, and the last thing you talked about, especially with how you position yourself around the questions, getting to know them. When you sell the vision, it's hard for people to not want to be a part when you've thought through the vision, you've asked the right questions that lead up to it, and now you're saying, "Hey, I'd love for you to be a part of it. Let's do something great together." It's just huge. So what are in your idea, in your mind, what are some of the biggest mistakes you made, or the mistakes you see regularly when it comes to, asking clients questions?
The number one mistake in our business, in my opinion, would be rate the product. I mean, that's the one thing I think that's you're playing the numbers game because you're just trying to sell product. You're going to get a couple people to bite, but you're going to leave a lot of people on the table,
Right.
a lot of things on the table. So, that's the one thing I think as everyone is a young salesperson who doesn't have the confidence or doesn't have the experience really to connect with people when you go into an office is you lean on what you know the most, which is product.
Yeah.
And I think that's the number one mistake I see out there. I mean, I made that mistake when I was a younger individual, but I think over time you have to come to the realization that it's not about the product, it's about the people first, right?
Yeah.
And I think that takes time to kind of develop because you got to have the confidence to go in there and strike up a conversation and
Right.
connect with them, and then be able still to mention, to get the product stuff in there, but do it in a way where it's kind of subtle.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that's where I've had my most success is being able to offer value propositions. And then, fortunately, I'm in a situation where I have some really great products to sell that fit in really well. So, but it's nice because I go in and really I'm trying to really sell myself first.
Wow. Right. Yeah, because so they can start trusting you and know you, because that's the name of the game.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you want. And plus, look, I want to again. I like working with people, and the people that want to work with me, we usually have a lot of success. It's the idea is really to help others, and then as a reward to that, you get compensated.
Yeah. Is there a question that you find yourself using more often than not? Maybe especially in newer client relationships, or older client relationships, do you have any go-tos that
I have the go-to question for me,
Yeah.
which I use often, almost in every meeting. It's simply, do you have anything exciting coming up? You know, that's it. Anything exciting planned coming up, or anything that just happened? And one or two things happens. Either they have something, or they just came back from somewhere.
Right.
So, like, for an example, they're like, "Oh yeah, we have a family trip to the Outer Banks."
Yep.
Oh, you go to the Outer Banks? Oh yeah, I went to school in North Carolina. Oh, you went to North? Yeah. What are you gonna do up there? Oh, we're gonna go kayaking and we're gonna hiking. Oh, you love hiking? Great. And you just get it's such an easy icebreaker,
Right.
and it gets them speaking. Like my goal in these conversations is dopamine spikes, right?
Yeah.
It sounds funny, but my goal is to get them get them talking about themselves, things that they like, right? So if they're talking about something they're very passionate about and they like, their dopamine spikes are going to go through the roof, right? And then then we kind of talk, we get it back to somewhere in the middle where I'm trying to help them, my value add. And then I might slide in there a little bit about how I can help their clients with certain areas. We'll kind of get into that conversation. But then on the way out, it's bringing it back full circle to what they love. So when I'm leaving, their dopamine spikes are going off again, and they're smiling, they're laughing, and they have a positive experience because, like Maya Angelou said, right? It's not what you say. It's people don't remember what you say; they remember how you made them feel.
Ooh.
So I often think about that when I'm going in and out of meetings.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. So you're leaving, they're feeling happy, they're smiling, they have a really positive memory of you, and then you follow up with your process and you do what you say you're going to do, and usually you get invited back, or you start that relationship.
Start the relationship. Yeah. So, I mean, it's so powerful. But you started this whole conversation with talking about serving your clients, being authentic. I mean, obviously, many folks in sales don't take that route because it's kind of easy to get addicted to the
long game.
Yeah.
And I think I've gotten really good at playing the long game. So
Play the long.
what I mean by that is that I'm not trying to sell every product on our shelf in that first meeting.
Right.
I'm just really trying to build that relationship. And once I had that relationship, once I help build up the team around them, it's you don't have to have that worry about is your product the best product at that time.
Yeah.
People start doing business with us for what we bring to the table.
So you've had the client for a while now. What are some questions that, because, obviously all of us are at some point an onion, lots of layers to keep peeling, And so with your longer term clients, what are some of the questions or the ways that you go about trying to just kind of keep, peeling some of those layers? Because, in 1 year, you only know so many things. 2, 3, 5, 7 years down the road, it's like, wow, we've really gotten to a
Yeah, well, then you start asking questions about where they want to go.
Yeah.
What are their visions? What are their dreams? What are they trying to accomplish?
Right.
One of the things I always talk about with the individuals that I sit down with while we're building out these initiatives and we're doing these trainings, right? Is I constantly tell them, look, this is a training for you and to build up the people around you, but I'm going to help you position it and brand it to your management team because this is coming from you, right? This is your idea. This is, you going to your management team saying, hey, I want to work with Dan to help train the people around me to become better communicators. Because if we can make them better communicators, we believe they can build better clients and better relationships and bring those people into financial centers. So that's kind of where I go with that as a relationship deeper. It's how I can help them improve their brand, not only to their clientele, but in their corporate structure. Right? How do I help them differentiate themselves from the other peers on their team? And I think that's kind of the differentiator that I don't think a lot of other of my counterparts are doing in the field to build that connection with their clients.
Wow, I love that. So I can't remember who said it, and so maybe I did. Who knows? Uh, but when we're obsessed with our client success, I mean, we'll have no shortage of questions to ask because we want to know their dreams. We want to be able to make them look amazing to their team, and so we'll be able to do. Okay, last question I'll ask because you've just given us a master class in this. what questions do you ask when you get the dreaded no, when you get the objections, when you get the not right now, I already got a guy, which direction, how do you take that?
Great question. So I think when you initially get a no face to face, you really want, because that doesn't happen often.
Right.
Usually you find out no when you don't get a phone call back or you get ghosted, or that's usually when you get the no.
You're trying to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if it's no in front of you, then you got to ask the questions of why. Like what's the core reason of why it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And sometimes if the reasons are legitimate and and it just doesn't make sense for that individual person or that person's business model,
Right.
you kind of I accept it. It's okay, that makes sense. But how else can I? And then you try to look for another way to fit in, right? And that's where you give them different ideas. Well, you're thinking like this, and you're trying to put this yeah, that doesn't fit. But if you look at it from this perspective, and you take this positioning, it can make sense because it's going to solve for this issue versus the issue you're trying to solve today, like you're trying to solve in your head, right? So it's kind of like giving them a different perspective to see if it makes sense, and that's kind of how you work with them. Now, if it just doesn't fit as a sales individual, I don't have to do business with everybody, right? So, and I think that's important because I'm looking for people I want to work with, that want to partner with me, that I like, and that like-minded, and we can help. So, ultimately, sometimes a no is a no, and you just move on.
Yeah. Wow. Sometimes a no is a no and you move on. That's great. This is great. Okay. This has been, especially for leaders who maybe, like we talked about in the beginning, have tried to go on the route of not being authentic, not building that trust. So this has been a master class for that. Absolutely love it. You're a resource leader. You're always reading all that kind of stuff. Let me ask you a couple of rapid fire questions to put in our online communicators library. Listeners, as you know, we're building this online library for a place where you can go spark new ideas, spark different learnings. So is there a speaker lately that you've heard that, boy, every time you hear that speaker, you're just like, I gotta tell somebody about them?
Yeah, Patrick Bet David. So I'm a big part of that organization in the sense that I'm part of their mastermind, which is a phenomenal resource. We sit around once a month. Patrick takes questions from business owners, and you hear what the struggles that these business owners are going through, and he coaches them through it. From everything from management issues to sales issues to compensation. There's some things that don't even pertain to me, but you get such a good perspective.
Yep.
And then, what I do is go and tweak it for what I do inside, for as what he likes to call an entrepreneur.
Yep.
And that's been all the difference over the last 6 months. Just keep making the business better. So that's probably my number one. He's got a podcast. If you like listening to, different perspectives from, current events, but he also has a Bet David Consulting. He's got 2 books out there. Read both books.
Yep.
Good books. I recommend those books. But yeah, I think that's my go-to right now.
And so that would be your podcast that you would recommend as well.
That's it for that's more for news, like for if you wanted current events.
Yeah. Is there another podcast that you're routinely going to for development questions, learn new kind of stuff?
Yeah, there's just one. It's a little bit over 200 episodes now, so it's pretty nice. It's
great.
It's called Speak with People.
I love it.
No, look, in all honesty, man, it's a good resource, right? You bring on a lot of people from the industry, from different industries that talk a lot about different leadership qualities and things that you need in the sales world.
Sure.
So there is a lot of research,
thanks.
A lot of good information on your podcast for sure.
And then is there a book that you've read recently or ever? You're about to see somebody either going off to a desert island and they can only take one book. What's that book that you would send them with?
Probably the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Okay.
How do I say that word?
I don't even know.
Trilogy.
There we go.
I mean, that's my favorite, probably all-time book, but it's not, it's not a self-help book.
Yeah.
If that's where you're kind of going at.
No, that's great. This is perfect. And if you sent that with them, if they're in a desert island, It's so long that they can feed
Yes,
themselves
they can survive, right?
they could eat themselves for years. I love it. This has been amazing. I'm so excited that you were a part of this series, Speak with Your Client. Love that you've added this wisdom, a masterclass. I can't wait for this episode to air. Tell our listeners, where can we find you online? Where can they connect on that?
So right now, you can find me on LinkedIn, Dan Cianci. I think it's Dan Cianci 7 if you're trying to do the code. But Dan, you'll find me if you Google it. That's probably the key spot to find me. We're in the process of creating a website for Discourse. That's going to be my new outside business activity. It's going to be all around communicating with your clients. So that's in the process. I would say probably within a month that'll be up and running live, and that's it.
Fantastic. Dan, thank you. Appreciate
Thank you for
what
having
you
me.
appreciate you what you mean to speak with people and how you build into leaders all over the place. So this was fantastic.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Speak with People podcast. It means the world to us when you share this episode. Thanks for liking, subscribing, or following the podcast. That really does help the podcast get into more ears and into more leaders listening. Also, don't forget, we have 2 exciting resources for you. The first is go to Facebook and join the Speakers Group. This is a community designed for leaders who want to grow their communication skills. Also, go to speakwithpeople.com/skills library to access the Communication Skills Library. It is an online resource chock filled with resources that will inspire you and transform you and grow your communication skills. Thanks again for being a part of the listening community. We cannot wait for the next episode.